northern Wisconsin and Minnesota are home to vast expanses of American hazelnut, such as here in the Muckwa Barrens of the Chequamegon-Nicolet National Forest in Bayfield County, Wisconsin. American hazelnut is a long-lived and tenacious shrub that thrives in harsh climates and poor soils. Mostly, American hazelnut is viewed as a wildlife species or a nuisance that can interfere with regeneration of conifers. Is it possible, however, that this plant, right here in our own backyard, could one day become a major agricultural crop in the upper Midwest on the scale of cranberries, blueberries, or sunflowers? Researchers and growers with the Upper Midwest Hazelnut Development Initiative think it can. The primary focus of agricultural research and development going forward will be figuring out how to produce more of the food, fuel, and other products we need from our agricultural lands while doing a better job protecting soil quality and our surface and groundwater. One option, such as shown here, is to grow more woody perennial plants such as fruit, nut, and biomass species in carefully planned mixtures with row crops and forages. These mixtures have the potential to increase productivity by increasing niche space utilization, while at the same time improving soil and water quality. Even better, because these woody crops could provide revenue for producers and conservation benefits, expensive government set-aside programs could be phased out. A foundational species envisioned for this new kind of agriculture in the upper Midwest is hazelnut. It's a long-lived, deep-rooted perennial shrub that produces significant quantities of nuts that can be used in many different ways. The kernels can be eaten fresh or processed for use in a wide range of products, such as baked goods, trail mixes, spreadable nut butters, and candies. The kernels are roughly 60% oil by weight, which when squeezed from the kernels makes a high value and healthy salad oil. It also has significant potential as a biofuel. Dr. Jim Lane is a professor of chemistry at the University of Wisconsin-Superior and has been working to understand the chemical properties of hazelnut oil.
Well, for the past several years, our research has involved studying oils from a variety of plants that are native to our region. Among those, one of those was the American hazelnut, and it really stood out for a couple of reasons. One, it had a very high oil content. It's roughly 60% by weight oil, and also it had a very high oleic acid content, typically over 80%. And high oleic acid oils are very much in demand now. They have a variety of applications. They can be used as lubricants, biodiesels. And, for an example, we've prepared biodiesels derived from American hazelnut oil and found that they have low temperature properties, a cloud point it's called, 15 to 20 degrees Celsius better than soybean derived biodiesels. In addition to that, these American hazelnut oils have very good food quality properties. It has very low saturated fatty acid content, and oftentimes you don't want that for good heart-healthy oil. It also is not very high in polyunsaturated fatty acids, which are typically more prone to oxidation. And it has this very high level of oleic acid, which is among the fatty acids in oils, that's the most desirable one. A number of companies have been spending millions of dollars genetically engineering plants or breeding plants to try to produce oils that American hazelnut produces naturally.
Like other crops, the waste products themselves are likely to have significant value. The meal left over after pressing can be used in value-added products or as high-protein livestock feed. The shells have a high BTU content and could be burned, and the husk material could make a high-value mulch product. Like any good crop, hazelnuts have many uses, providing significant income potential for growers and processors. There has been interest in hazelnut production in the upper Midwest for many years, but the bottleneck has been developing suitable plant material. Cultivars of the European and Turkish hazelnuts, which account for 99% of worldwide hazelnut production, won't grow in the region due to harsh winters and a native fungal pest, eastern filbert blight. The native species, particularly American hazelnut, are winter hardy and resistant to eastern filbert blight, but, until recently, have been largely ignored by plant breeders. Thanks to work by private breeders, the Badgerset Research Corporation and Forest Agriculture Enterprises in particular, improved plant material is becoming available, and the future is promising for Midwestern hazelnuts. Jason Fischbach is the University of Wisconsin Extension Agriculture Agent stationed in Ashland and Bayfield County. He helps coordinate the Upper Midwest Hazelnut Development Initiative and has been working with early adopter growers across the region since 2006.
One of my main priorities is to better understand the scale and the scope of hazelnut production in the Upper Midwest. And to do that, I've conducted a couple of surveys back in 2008, 2010, and to date, what we've found has been pretty surprising. We've found over 130 growers so far, together with about 67,000 hazelnut plants covering about 140 acres. Now, in context of other crops, that's not very much, but if you recognize that what these are, those 67,000 plants are all genetically unique plant seedlings from crosses between the American hazelnuts, the beaked hazelnuts, and the European hazelnuts. And the chances are, albeit small, that somewhere out in those plantings are genetically superior plants that could definitely move the hazelnut industry along. So our job here with the Upper Midwest Hazelnut Development Initiative is to work with the growers to identify those plants.
Dr. Lois Braun is a postdoc working at the University of Minnesota in the Department of Agronomy and Plant Genetics. Lois has been working with early adopter growers since 2003 to help find the needles in the haystack. Each fall for the last 8 years, she and her assistants have been working with many of the growers in the region, helping measure a range of characteristics, such as kernel yield. Not surprisingly, she has found considerable variation in yield from plant to plant and site to site. But most importantly, she has found some plants that look very promising.
What we are doing is we went through the farm starting in 2006 and started flagging the best bushes. And we did that again in 2007. And starting in 2008, we started selecting those bushes that had 2 or more flags on them and saying, well, it was good in 2 consecutive years, preferably 3 consecutive years, it must be a pretty good bush. And then we started propagating them. And by getting those replicated plants, what we can do is we can isolate the effects of genetics from the effects of growing conditions, that is, genetics versus environment. And the best plants to emerge from those evaluations will be the ones that we select for use on a commercial level.
While hybrid hazelnuts have launched the emerging hazelnut industry in the Upper Midwest, pure American hazelnuts from Wisconsin and Minnesota may be the long-term future of the industry. Dr. Mike Demchek is a professor of forestry at the University of Wisconsin in Stevens Point and is working with Dr. Anthony Kern of Morningside College to better understand the genetic diversity of American hazelnuts.
If you look at any crop, there's a center for genetic diversity for that crop across the world. For potatoes, it might be within the Andes in South America. With American hazelnut, that crop would be basically right here. We have millions, if not billions, of wild American hazelnut within this state. And so we've got an enormous resource to choose from. European hazel has basically got a couple of problems. It has problems with hardiness, weather hardiness, and it also has problems with eastern filbert blight. Eastern filbert blight is not native to Europe, but it is to North America. So American hazel developed with eastern filbert blight in the area, and it also developed in some of the coldest parts of the U.S. So both hardiness, winter hardiness, as well as disease resistance are already endemic to the organism. So it allows for a lot of selection to either improve the existing European hazelnuts or to improve American hazelnut for a crop into itself.
Dr. Anthony Kern is the chair of the Biology and Chemistry Department of Morningside College in Iowa. He has worked extensively with wild rice to better understand its genetic diversity in order to design appropriate conservation practices to protect this culturally important plant. He is now using his molecular tools with American hazelnut to better understand its diversity and improve the efficiency of a breeding program.
The overall goals, at least from the genetic perspective, are to do a couple different things. One is to characterize the genetic diversity of these wild populations, which will help us help to guide the selection criteria that we're using. The other thing that we're really working on is to develop some molecular tools that will help select plants for disease resistance. And we can do something called marker-assisted selection, where in the very earliest stages we can select and do a pretty quick genetic test on just a leaf from one plant, and then if it all goes well, if the molecular tools are developed appropriately, and this is down the road, but if they're done right, we can tell if that plant is going to have low, medium, or high levels of disease resistance. And eastern filbert blight is the big one that we're looking at, although there's a couple other disease resistance questions out there as well.
For any significant scale-up of hazelnut production, it will be necessary to produce affordable and consistent plants. Currently, companies that sell improved hazelnut plants rely on plants grown from seed. This can work, but many of the attributes of the select parent plants may not carry over into their offspring. Vegetative propagation is the industry standard for most woody perennial plants such as apples or blueberries. Eric Zeldin is a research scientist at the University of Wisconsin and is working to develop protocols for vegetative propagation of both hybrid and American hazelnuts.
Clonal propagation of American hazelnut has proved to be challenging. Techniques such as mound layering and stem cuttings have been difficult and inconsistent, with poor rooting or poor growth thereafter. One technique that we're exploring is using rejuvenated plant material that when grown in vitro, such as this culture right here, American hazelnut that has been cloned successfully. The reason we do that is we can multiply quickly and also have a cutting that's physiologically better able to root and give us the type of growth that we want. Ex vitro or out of culture rooting like this gives a very high quality plant. The benefits of using micropropagation is that we can rapidly generate a large number of clonal stock of selected cultivars. Eventually it may actually serve as a source of commercial material to go out to the growers directly.
A unique part of the Upper Midwest Hazelnut Development Initiative is that growers are in the front seat of this project. In 2010, the growers and researchers launched the Hazelnut Improvement Program, or HIP. Jason Fischbach coordinates the program.
So our plant improvement program is taking two parts. The first is we're scouring the woods of northern Minnesota and Wisconsin looking for high-performing, pure American hazelnut plants. We're also working with growers with the hybrid plants, the crosses between the American and the European hazelnuts, and we've launched a program called the Hazelnut Improvement Program. And what we do is train the growers to go out and screen their plantings and measure yield on their best plants. They harvest it, put it in a bag, dry it, and they collect the data on how much they're getting per plant. Then they're able to enter that into an online program through our website where they can keep track of their data on their plants, and then we can go and use that data to find what we think are the best plants and then get those evaluated. So that's the first part of our program. The second is once we've found these select plants, these high-performing plants, is to actually evaluate them in replicated performance trials so we can see if the performance of these plants is due to the genetics or due to the environment. And the hope is, when we establish these plantings across the upper Midwest, is that a handful will rise to the top. This is one of our performance trials, part of the Upper Midwest Hazelnut Development Initiative, where we evaluate select plants that growers have let us propagate. And we've got about 3 acres here that were established in 2010. So this is going to be a good 10-year project, and we're off to a good start.
As the researchers work to improve genetics and agronomics, the growers are building with their industry. Jeff Jensen is the president of the Minnesota Hazelnut Foundation, which is an association of hazelnut growers in Minnesota and beyond.
The Minnesota Hazelnut Foundation was established in 2008. We came together as a group of growers. It gets kind of lonely sometimes when you're a new grower starting out with a new type of a crop. We don't have all the answers, so it's a chance for us growers to get together and learn with one another. So some of the things that we do is we have annual Hazelnut Field Day here at Norm Erickson's. We typically have quarterly in-person meetings where we go to different growers' farms and take a look at their crops or whatnot. We also help with the annual Upper Midwest Hazelnut Growers Conference, and that's spread around between Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin. We're really trying to spread the word and get as many growers as possible to try out the crop. Perennial crops have a lot of multi-benefits. Obviously, carbon sequestration, they reduce wind and water erosion, they enhance nutrient cycling. So there's just all sorts of benefits that these perennial crops have. And so the Minnesota Hazelnut Foundation would like to see this as a commercial crop where we can have hazelnuts spread across the landscape and actual plantings that can produce a viable income. And if we can target those areas then to hazelnuts that are the most environmentally sensitive, I think we can really make some improvements in water quality.
Making sure we can produce what we need while protecting our soil and water resources will be a significant challenge over the next 50 years. Perennial crops, especially woody perennial crops, hold great promise, particularly in the Upper Midwest. Thanks to the growers and researchers of the Upper Midwest Hazelnut Development Initiative, hazelnuts are well on their way to one day becoming a foundational species for this new kind of agriculture.